Hello everyone and welcome to another great lesson with Ralph. Hope you'll find your lovely IELTS candidates. And today we're going to cover Task 1 Academic Writing, and today's chart is bar chart. So first let's take a look at our question. Let's see what the question is about. Let's analyze the chart together and let's see what we're going to do today. The bar chart below describes the gross domestic spending on research and development in 5 countries between 2001 and 2011. All right, first take a look at this chart. You'll see that there is just too much information on this chart, right? So the question that comes into your mind is that how can I describe it in 20 minutes? So first, you should group data, you should group categories and write about trends. And when you see that there is date or there are dates plotted over a period of time, you definitely know that it's a trend graph. And trend graph has its own specific language. You're going to talk about increase, decrease, and using adjectives and adverbs that we worked on this part before in our previous videos. So if you have any questions about that, you can refer to our previous videos. Now, let's first talk about our plan, all right, and then let's see what each paragraph is about, and then we'll delve into details more. So your first paragraph is your introduction, and you know that in introduction you tell the examiner about the chart you are describing, what the chart is about. So basically we paraphrase the question using some synonym language, all right? And then in the overview paragraph, you briefly highlights the main trends or features. And remember that no data in this paragraph should be included, all right? You definitely should not use any data in this paragraph. And then paragraph 3 and 4, which are your 2 body paragraphs, you organize the data, you compare or contrast when appropriate, all right? Now, in writing our overview paragraph, of course, right now we're not going to write our overview paragraph. Let's see what are the main features or trends in this paragraph. So when you take a look at this chart, you'll see that there is upward trend in the spending of all of the countries here. All the countries increased from 2001 to 2011, except for the United States, the UK, and France, in which in 2005 there was a slight decrease, all right? But for Spain and China, all 3 years there was increase, all right? This is our main trend in this paragraph. Now for paragraph 3 and 4, body paragraph 1 and 2, how can we group our data here? What's the best way to categorize the data here? I've seen that some students prefer to group like this. For example, they talk about 2 countries in the first body paragraph and then the remaining 3 countries in the second body paragraph. But it is not a logical categorization, believe me. There should be logic behind the way you categorize or you group data in each of the body paragraph, all right? So what I'm going to do is, in body paragraph 1, I'm going to describe countries that spend the most and the least on R&D, research and development, all right? So USA and Spain will be written in the first body paragraph, and the rest of the countries, UK, China, and France will be described in second body paragraph. This is a good way to group data, to categorize data in writing our bar chart. Now let's start from our introduction paragraph. Now in writing our introduction paragraph, we have to read the question again. The bar chart below describes the gross domestic spending on research and development in 5 countries between 2001 and 2011. We can change describes into illustrates, all right? And spending should be changed into expenditure, right? So when you have in the question 5 countries, the number of countries, in the introduction paragraph, you can write the name of the 5 countries, all right? And here for the dates, we have 2001 and 2011, in which in your introduction, you can change them in 2001, 2005, and 2011, all right? Now, let's start writing our introduction. The bar chart describes the gross domestic expenditure on research and development by China, France, Spain, the UK, and the USA during the years 2001, 2005, and 2011. This is a very good introduction paragraph. Now, in writing our overview paragraph, you know that we always start our overview paragraph with the word overall. And then there is a phrase, it can be seen that, right? You always start your overview paragraph with this word and this phrase. Overall, it can be seen that what? That there was a general upward trend in spending of all of 5 countries. But before ending this paragraph, you should remember something important. And that is the degrees of the increases here. You know, the degrees vary. There are varying degrees of increase here in the 5 countries, and you should definitely write that, all right? So, overall, it can be seen that there was a general upward trend in the spending of all of 5 countries, albeit to varying degrees. Albeit to varying degrees. So, when you use this word, albeit, it means although, right? So, that is a good word you use when you want to talk about contrast, to varying degrees. All right, now let's start writing our first body paragraph. Now let's take a look at our chart. As you can see, USA spent the most, right, on R&D in all 3 years, right? And it increased from let's say around 2.5%, right, in 2001 to let's say 0.8%, right? And in 2011. On the other hand, Spain spent the least, right? It started just below 1% in 2001 to around 1.3% in 2011. All right, so that is the data that we're going to cover here in this paragraph. So we can write the USA spent the most on R&D in all 3 years. You should definitely write in all 3 years. It means that in 2001, 2005, and 2011, the USA was the leading country in spending on R&D, right? With the annual expenditure slightly increasing from what? Increasing from 2.5% in 2001 to 2.8% of the country's GDP in 2011. So for 2.5%, we can write around 2.5% in 2001, because it is not exactly 2.5. It is a little bit more than 2.5. We can write around 2.5%. Now, let's write about Spain. On the other end of the spectrum, Spain spent the least. You should definitely write the least, starting at just below or under 1% in 2005 and finishing at around 1.3%. So that is a very good body paragraph. You talked about the most and the least, and you talked about the number of, or the percentage of the beginning and the ending. So when there are, let's say, 4 or 5 charts for each country, the best way to talk about the data is the beginning and ending. So do not talk about the data in, for example, 2005. That is not, of course, necessary, right? All the data here is not necessary to be included in your report. So just the beginning year and the ending, as we did for the USA and Spain here. Now, the remaining 3 countries should be discussed in or should be explained in paragraph 4 or your second body paragraph. So, as you can see, China's spending, take a look at China. The beginning was around 1, right? 1% in 2001. And then it increased to around 1 point, for example, 4, and then increased to 1 point, let's say 8 in 2011, right? So what we can see is that each year, it increased around 0.5% each year. 0.5%. So there was an increase of 0.5% each year for China, all right? And France and UK, they showed a similar pattern. This is a very good phrase, show a similar pattern, in which when you see that the pattern is the same and is repeated for 2 or 3 countries, you can talk about that. Except for UK was lower than France. Right, but they showed a similar pattern. Now let's start writing our second body paragraph. China's spending grew more than that of other countries. This information is very important. Why? Because the degree of change, the degree of increase was more than the other countries, right? And as you can see in China, that's definitely true. And we can add more information about this degree of increase. We can write about 0.5% each year, comma, and increased from about 0.9% in 2001 to around 2.5% in 2011. So China is done. We talked about the degree of increase for China. Now let's talk about the remaining 2 countries. The remaining 2 countries, comma, France and the UK, comma, showed a similar pattern, and their spending held relatively steady throughout the decade at around 2% and 1.5% of GDP, respectively. So you know how to write respectively when you talk about 2 items, 2 countries, and you provide data. And when you want to say, all right, this 2% refers to France and 1.5% refers to UK, you can write the adverb respectively. So here for France and UK, I did not write anything about the beginning and ending of that because that is not that much necessary. You should just write about the overall spending of the 2 countries here. And the overall spending for France was around 2% and for the UK was around 1.5%. So that's all we can write about this bar chart. Now, if I want to wrap it up here, the first important thing is that how to write about main trends and main, let's say, features of the report here, and how to categorize data, how to group data is another important thing that you have to be well informed, all right? So grouping data is very important. How to analyze data is also very important in your body paragraphs. So when there are, for example, 5 or 6 countries, and for each country there are, let's say, 4 or 5 charts, you should, and if that it's a trend graph, you should write the beginning and ending of each country. The beginning and ending. Talk about the biggest and the lowest, the highest and the lowest, all right? And also talk about the biggest change over a period of time, all right? Or the smallest change over a period of time. These are important data that have to be included in your report. All right, guys, that's all for today. I hope you have enjoyed this part and has been really helpful. Until next time, enjoy your time, stay tuned, and goodbye.